Good morning. Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I'm Megan Dunning, a member of the Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she and hers. Today, we are in person at the Admiral at the Lake, the 2U Sanctuary, and we are continuing to meet virtually via Zoom. We ask everyone's indulgence for the complications of a three-part service, and we're glad you're here, whichever way you're joining us. If you are here in the sanctuary and you could benefit from hearing assistance, we have devices available as well as noise-canceling headphones for both adults and children with noise sensitivities. Please see our tech team in the back. They might be waving their hands. We welcome people to wear masks during the service. This practice prevents transmission of viruses, supports the health of our community, and helps us center the need of those who are most vulnerable. We especially welcome newcomers and visitors this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Please know that we are excited to have you here and look forward to getting to know you whichever way you're joining us. If you're new to us today and you're here at 2U, there are blue mugs that you can use to signal to others if you'd like them to come up to you and say hello at coffee hour, or please mention it in person to others after the service. If you're on Zoom, please note that you are new in the Zoom chat. Also, if you're here in the sanctuary, we also always need people in the kitchen after coffee hour, and that's a great place to see old friends and to meet some new ones while lending a helping hand. Our worship today is led by Clare Gervasi, who works as a Montessori guide for children ages 3 through 6 and is a community organizer as well as a board member here. Besides Clare, worship is led today by Karina Paxton-Filatio as worship associate and Jill Althage as our worship coordinator. Music is provided by Carl Kennedy. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, the music, the technical production. They are listed in the order of service, and we thank them for our ongoing care of this congregation. I have a couple of announcements for you this morning. First, in order to deepen our own understanding of our justice system, and as a way of supporting people who are incarcerated, we encourage those who are interested in being matched with a pen pal to join Barbara Moline from the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois after the service to learn more about getting involved. Grab a coffee and a treat or two, and meet downstairs in our Fleischman Hall at 11:45. And if you haven't been to Fleischman Hall before, please ask somebody nearby how to get there. If you missed our service in Oz Park this week, you might not have heard the exciting news. This year's Fall Fest Silent Auction and Talent Review theme is Over the Rainbow, and it is scheduled for Saturday, October 26th. Please mark your calendars and look for more information on the 2U website. But before we embark on our journey down the yellow brick road, we are seeking a chair or co-chairs to lead the planning and organization of this extremely important event. Brandon Nix, our Director of Administration, has already put significant effort to get things started, but we urgently need a chair or co-chairs to guide the event to success. This fundraiser is crucial for our church. We have a goal of raising $30,000, making it our second largest source of income after the annual pledge campaign. And the success of this event is vital for sustaining our community and the programs we hold dear. It would be a huge deficit to our community should the event not take place, and without a chair, we can't move forward, begin our planning meetings. It is an amazing way to bring a lot of fun to the church. It is always a fun evening. Planning it is a great way to connect to others. If you are even thinking about maybe it would be fun to be involved in a joyful evening like that, please reach out to Brandon as soon as possible to talk through the possibilities. Next Sunday, we will be celebrating our open pulpit, and we're going to be inviting you, the members of our community, to sign up to share your thoughts, voices, stories, poetry, reflections with our community. We believe that every voice in our congregation holds value and wisdom, and this is your chance to shape the messages we share. Please see your order of service for a link to sign up or reach out to Reverend Jason. Lastly, mark your calendars and join us next Sunday, August 25th at 6 p.m. for a 2U night out, potluck and movie night at the 2U Sanctuary. We'll kick off our Fall Fest with a viewing of The Wizard of Oz, and again, please see your order of service for the link to RSVP. I now welcome Karina to lead us in our call to worship.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but by the values we share. Whether you're joining us for the first time or for the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in this world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you, when you feel ready, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together.
In just a moment, Lumi here in the sanctuary and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. We light our chalices this morning with these words from the dedication to the book Joyful Militancy by Nick Montgomery and Carla Bergman. This service is an invitation to everyone in cramped spaces and stifling atmospheres, letting in fresh air and finding wiggle room, embracing messiness and mistakes together, learning to move with fierce love and uncertainty, making us capable of something new. You got it, bud.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. From you I receive, to you I give. God, I receive, to you I give. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. Together we share, and from this we live.
Please rise in body and or spirit and join me in reciting our covenant. The words are on your screen. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
Now please stay risen and lift your voices with me once more as we sing our congregational hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
You may be seated. I now invite anyone who is young in years or young at heart to join me up here for a little story time. The book we're going to read is called, what is it called? Random Kindness and Senseless Acts of Beauty. Our leaders got confused, so now we are all leaders now. They told us there was nothing we could do. They were wrong. We never know how much, and we never know how far it goes, but always we have power. We have power. We're all making the soup we're all eating. We're all weaving the cloth we're all wearing. What we do now can't go away. We are all in the circle together. We are all in the circle together. Anything we do randomly and frequently starts to make its own sense. and changes the world into it. Senseless violence makes more and more sense when vengeance and fear take us closer and closer to a world where everyone is dead for no reason. But violence isn't the only thing that is senseless until it makes its own sense. Anything we want there to be more of, do it randomly. Don't wait for reasons. It will make itself be more. Having mic issue. Scrawl it on the wall, random kindness and senseless acts of beauty. We are right on the edge of discovering millions of new ways of being together. Millions of new dances we do together, minute by minute. And we are right on the edge of destroying ourselves. And we are right on the edge of destroying ourselves out of life. Because we are too scared to have that much delight. We're right on the edge. The steps we take now make new earth grow beneath our feet. The steps we take now decide what kind of earth that will be. In every moment we live, we have the choice to find the fight or make delight. We have power. It's a circle. Start the dance. All right, my beautiful children of all ages. You can either, while we sing you out, you can either go back to your seat or you can do crafts downstairs in Fleischman Hall. So can make your choice and see your grown-ups whenever you see them. Each year, we all make a commitment, our pledge, to support the ministry of this church. In addition to this annual contribution, each Sunday, we take a collection so that we can share with those doing justice work beyond our church community. While we are unable to all come together in person, we can still share our resources. To make your contribution, you can send a text to the number on the screen, which will be up shortly, or you can find it in your order of service. You can also drop off a cash or check, spends just as well, in the donation box located in the Palmer room directly to your right after exiting the sanctuary. For the month of August, we are sharing our plate with UUMPI, Unitarian Universalist Prison Ministry of Illinois. Our speaker today is Barbara Moline. Barbara is a leader on the UUPMI Steering Committee, the Pen Pal Program Coordinator, and a member at Unity Temple in Oak Park. Let's welcome Barbara.
Good morning. This morning, our plate share goes to the UU Prison Ministry of Illinois, which works throughout the state to promote criminal justice and support people harmed by the prison industrial complex. We promote a pen pal program, We now have 150 inside people looking for some with pen pals. I think we have a waiting list of about 45. And that literally provides a lifeline for many incarcerated persons. We create solidarity circles and congregations to support persons coming out of prison. At Logan Women's Prison and at the Cook County Jail, we offer covenant circles to service persons inside. In collaboration with other organizations, including the UU Advocacy Network of Illinois, we engage in advocacy to promote transformative justice. We also offer education in workshops, both online and in person, to provide opportunities for congregational members to learn more about the prison industrial complex. In September, the UUPMI will be expanding, adding a quarter-time staff member to augment the half-time position of our director, Reverend Allison Farnham. This is wonderful news, but the sustaining of this position requires robust financial support, and so we ask you to give generously. May what you give bring you joy. Thank you.
Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I invite you now into a spirit of prayer and meditation. Let us start by breathing together. Take a deep breath in and out. We begin in thanks, thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family in ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents and teachers, and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, we are with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty, for migrants who are fleeing and seeking, finding new homes in our city, among many. We are with you. We pray for all those living in harm's way. We pray for our planet and commit to work that will lead us away from the harms of climate change. We pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. Into this shared silence, I invite you now to speak the names of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of this community. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen, and blessed be. During our ritual of lighting candles for our joys and concerns, we want to continue to take care of one another. In the 2U sanctuary, you are invited to come forward and light a candle. As you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer available. For those at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward and to take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly, putting your energy into the stone, and then, knowing your joys and sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. For those of us on Zoom, join us by sharing your joys and concerns in our chat window. And I will light a candle to represent your celebrations and sorrows. You may now come forward. Thank you. We hold all these joys, celebrations, sorrows, and struggles close to our hearts. I now invite Karina to come read our first reading.
Our first reading this morning is written by Jalal al-Din Rumi, A Necessary Autumn Inside Each. You and I have spoken all these words, but as for the way we have to go, words are no preparation. There is no getting ready other than grace. My faults have stayed hidden. One might call that a preparation. I have one small drop of knowing in my soul. Let it dissolve in your ocean. There are so many threats to it. Inside each of us, there's a continual autumn. Our leaves fall and are blown over the water. A crow sits in the blackened limbs and talks about what's gone. Then your generosity returns. Spring, moisture, intelligence, the scent of hyacinth and rose and cypress. Joseph is back. And if you don't feel in yourself the freshness of Joseph, be Jacob. Weep and then smile. Don't pretend to know something you haven't experienced. There's a necessary dying, and then Jesus is breathing again. Very little grows on jagged rock. Be ground. Be crumbled so wildflowers will come up where you are. You've been stony for too many years. Try something different. Surrender.
Our second reading is an excerpt from Ijeoma Oluo's recent July 2024 article, written after the Supreme Court ruling granting legal immunity to US presidents. It's a longer article. I'm reading you the bulleted list she gave. The title in your order of service is incorrect. It's actually How We Get Through This. There's another really great YouTube video called How We Win. That's from the uprisings. I suggest you go watch it. It's something different though. Not Ijeoma Oluo. Okay, how we get through this. There's 12 things. Number 1, give up on reform. Number 2, strengthen your community connections. Number 3, fully integrate your movement relationships into your life. Number 4, pick up a meditation practice. Number 5, get a hobby or 2. Number 6, get therapy if you can. Number 7, set boundaries around trauma consumption. Number 8, know your community resources. Number 9, wear a mask. Number 10, support mutual aid and grassroots organizing. Number 10, build robust information networks. Number 12, cultivate joy. Remember, we're not just fighting against fascism, colonialism, and oppression. We are fighting for us. We're fighting for our lives, for our freedom, for our communities, for our children. There are so many ways in which our lives can be taken from us, and they can be taken from us while we are still living. How we live matters. Every day that we choose joy, that we choose justice, that we choose respect, that we choose connection, that we choose care, every day that we make these loving choices in the face of oppression and exploitation, we are fighting for our lives, and we are winning. Let us hear our anthem.
Our anthem today, We Shall Not Be Moved, which you also heard earlier, has a almost 200-year-old history in this country, and it's just almost 200 years old. And I think like a lot of American music has its roots in enslaved black folks in the South in the 1800s. It was originally very much a religious song. The image, which I think is a really powerful image of the tree planted by the water, comes from Jeremiah chapter 17. But I think because that image and the song itself is just so powerful, it has been transformed throughout the decades. It became a civil rights anthem, it became a labor rights anthem, and kind of lives in between this place of sacred music and secular music, and in a world that feels so determined to create a wall between what is sacred music and what is secular music. I think this song is such a beautiful example of something that kind of refuses to accept that and allows both to coexist. And I think that's actually a place where all music exists, not just this song. So I think it's a beautiful example of that. But the words have definitely changed over the years and has been adapted into different situations. So if you know it, I invite you to sing along. Okay. Let this go. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're on our way to justice. We shall not be moved. On our way to justice, we shall not be moved like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We're on our way to freedom. On our way to freedom, we shall not be moved. We're on our way to freedom, we shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Some harmony if you know it. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved, like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. One more time, like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Thank you so much, Carl. That was awesome. Hello, good morning. I want to start off this reflection with a caveat. Mercury is in retrograde. And this means that messages and technology may go awry. We already saw this happen. So please bear with me and the stars. During astrological retrogrades, we are invited to review and edit various aspects of our lives. So may this review be helpful to you. I also want to say thank you to all of you for listening with supportive ears, and to the worship services team for inviting me and helping me today. Back in the winter, when I was invited by the worship team to give a second sermon, I thought about my last topic in the summer of 2022 on caring for children as a spiritual practice. While my words today have a different overall focus, I will be talking about children, and I will also update you that within months of giving that sermon, I got the incredible opportunity to teach at Near North Montessori, where I'm about to start my second year. I didn't know I was gonna have feelings about that. So. It's like important for you to witness that, I guess. Okay. Today, I want to talk about possibility and how we make our own world through making sense. In order to do that, I also need to talk about apocalypse. Don't worry. It's not the biblical kind, although probably still difficult to consider. And honestly, I do hope that what I have to say strikes a nerve, because nerves are the mechanism by which the mind moves us to act and through which we sense the world. I was reminded this week that I should only write what is true. However, what is true for me is complex, as I'm sure it is for many of you. Simple truths do not usually appeal to Unitarian Universalists. Living with complexity is something we generally value, in my experience. In fact, I recently attended the Worship Services Committee annual retreat with some other 2U members of various groups within the congregation. I was representing the board. And we got to talk with Reverend Jason and discuss some ideas of what we'd like to hear about from the pulpit in the coming year, and which holidays should be sure to be included, and that kind of thing. It was a great discussion. It was a great time. I came away from our meeting invigorated by the flexibility and creativity of the gathered group. We all demonstrated a hunger to challenge ourselves and grow closer in doing so. I felt fortified by this truth, that our congregation wants to grow and to challenge itself. We are united in this. I also felt surprised about that. I've been reflecting on why I felt surprised. After all, the sentiment that we try to be a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves is literally our covenant. Why should I be surprised at evidence of that? What I realized in sitting with my own surprise for a bit is that I often get stuck in feeling alone, even amongst chosen community. I often feel like I have to explain or qualify myself, as evidenced by my entire preamble to preaching today. I often feel here at 2U like there is an assumed vocabulary that actually I do not know. And so even as I try to translate myself to others, I also am trying to learn the language. This continues to be a frequent experience, even after 5 years at 2U, 5 years of active participation in committees and on the board. How much of that is my own way of seeing the congregation, and how much of that is the way this community relates to each other? I imagine the truth overlaps these and contains more. In thinking about surprising spaces, I want to offer my experience in other communities, specifically direct action-oriented anarchist spaces. One of the things I love about anarchist spaces I'm involved in is how emergent they are, and therefore how responsive. It is liberating to practice togetherness where assumptions are few. And the main one is, you want to help me meet my needs, and I want to do the same for you, because that makes all of us stronger. Conversely, other assumptions, such as how much money one has, what one's abilities are or are not, where one is employed, what one's level of formal education is, one's beliefs, generally not centered or taken for granted. In such community, the space left where assumptions are not is experienced as a field of possibility, where one must be open to many potential realities. In such a culture, I have to be present, listen actively, ask follow-up questions in order to check for understanding and make sure I know the situation and the people before me. Then I can decide how I want to respond to them, but openness is the operating assumption. In contrast, I find a foreclosure to possibility in many other social and organizing spaces. They feel much more rigid, more closed, more afraid, more stultifying. Importantly, the kind of openness I find in anarchist organizing spaces is not about welcoming anything and everyone. It's not about tolerance. It's not about wholesale accepting people. Maybe it would be about those things, but the kind of openness I'm talking about is a kind of antenna turned on and ready to receive whatever wavelengths it encounters. What meaning is made of the waves it receives is dependent on other machines and other processes, analyzing the input at a later time to make sense of it. The kind of openness I experience in anarchist gatherings is the practice of literally observing more, instead of deciding what should be there and then trying to find that. Inductive rather than deductive sense-making, in other words. Children are another group who help me in this practice. Much of the work I do in the children's house, as Montessorians call the preschool classroom, is to help children refine their senses. When the young child enters the children's house, they have been alive for about 3 years, give or take 6 months. In these 3 years, they have had their first set of human experiences, their first sensory impressions of the world, first bath, first ice cream, first song, first springtime, first fire, or radiator, or hot stove. All of these impressions are swirling around, largely uncategorized, in the mind of a 3-year-old. I know you can relate. It is here that my work with the child begins, to offer them the concepts: cold, hot, long, thin, loud, soft, piano, drum, voice, red, violet, green, etc. I offer these sensations, these names, one at a time, in isolation, so that they may be considered and absorbed completely and as perfectly as possible. I learn much from observing children create these mental categories from their sensory experience, and then even more from watching them refine them further and further. Cold, colder, coldest, bright, brighter, brightest, etc. These concepts land in their consciousness with such solid power, helping them literally create their sense of reality and their sense of self. In order to help them make sense of their senses, I have to be totally present to them. I must remain open to possibility at all moments. I must not assume that a 3-year-old cannot sit still or cannot perceive the difference in 2 shades of blue. My task is to observe her as she absorbs these sensations and then see how she makes sense of them. That is, I must not assume to know how she will go about discovering these things for herself, but instead, I observe and respond, using my own knowledge and training to remove any obstacle to her self-discovery. If instead of responding to her initiative, I offered first the child a world in which sitting still and silent is prized, and movement and questions are denigrated. I'm helping to literally shape her reality to be a place where her natural instincts to move and to speak are coded as wrong. In other words, I'm actively separating the child from herself. In order to avoid making assumptions or putting my own fears and biases on her, I remain open. I see the child and the world with new eyes every day. In this work, I often think of Marcel Proust, who wrote, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." If we're able to do this, to seek in a new way, to sense the world as the child does, to practice looking at what is before us instead of seeking to find what we wish were there, new realities literally unfold before us. The difference in these two ways of experiencing is how, for example, three people can look at the same situation and make three different stories out of it. But how can we practice having new eyes as adults? The more we practice openness to beauty, the more beauty opens to us. The more we practice openness to joy, the more joy becomes obvious to us. The more we expect the delightfully unexpected, the more delight and magic and surprise reveal themselves. For example, if you observe a person and expect to see either a man or a woman, that's what you'll find. But if instead you observe a person and wonder more openly, how does this person relate to the world? You might begin to see all kinds of new things. If you went even further and said, how do I relate to the masculine in the world? How do I relate to the feminine in the world? You might even see more new worlds open up in yourself and in others. You might see more of the person before you and who you are inside too. But this is easier said than practiced, especially when it feels so risky in this volatile and violent world in which we live. If we open ourselves to seeing with new eyes, we may get terribly hurt. It is safer to hold our assumptions close and view the world through their reliable lenses, even if they are gray-colored glasses, tinged with fear and inertia. Doom and despair are overly accessible to us these days. The world is on fire, literally and figuratively. It is easy to feel as if there is no hope, as if the world is ending. The apocalypse is upon us. Well, I say, hope and the end of the world are not opposed. They are, in fact, the same thing. The end of this world is what gives me hope. If by this world we mean hierarchies of oppression, this global empire that enables genocides and harms human life and the planet, all of that needs to end. If apocalypse means the end of empire, then I sincerely hope I am one of the horsemen. Apocalypse has come to be used primarily as a synonym for catastrophe, but the Greek word apocalypsis, from which it is derived, means a revelation. I believe we are in a time of revelation, not in the ominous evangelical Christian sense, but in the literal definition of revelation, that which is surprising and previously unknown, especially that which is made known in a dramatic way. I'm not a biblical scholar or even a Christian, but I'm not trying to evoke that theology in talking about apocalypse. I'm mostly responding to the ways that the concept is used currently and popularly as something cataclysmic and terrifying. These are apocalyptic times. The world order of the last few hundred years, maybe even the past few millennia, depending on how you count it, is now crumbling. That can feel exhausting to live through. However, this crumbling is only a catastrophe if we lack the imagination to envision a world beyond empire. Ursula Le Guin said in 2014, when accepting the National Book Foundation Medal, "We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. But then So did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art, very often in our art, the art of words. Within this frame, apocalypse means life beyond capitalism. And indeed, what a revelation that is. I believe one of the major ways we can reveal new worlds to ourselves is through spontaneous, intentional creation. Le Guin called this art. I agree that art is one of the main ways that resistance and change begin. I invite you to consider that any random, beautiful thing that you choose to do is generative, is creative, is art, is resistance, is change. Intentional creation is a powerful way to practice other ways of being, other worlds, maybe even post-apocalyptic realities. Like, what happens after the apocalypse? What if it all works out? Like, have you really thought about what the world could and would look like if it all worked out? Whatever that means to you? What are its contours? What are its details? I think we need to imagine these things. Despite the ongoing pandemic, despite the irreversible changes in our Earth's climate already occurring, despite the genocide in Palestine, despite state repression in Congo, Kenya, the United States, and beyond, I am hopeful. I am hopeful because I believe in the power of intentional senselessness, spontaneous creation, art, repeated until it makes its own sense, as we read today in our moment for all ages. I believe novelty can save us because it is a way of practicing seeing with new eyes. Just as our chalice lighting words said, the wiggle room is where the possibility for being something new is. The wiggle room is where we make the cracks in empire ever bigger until it crumbles all the way down and other worlds we've been nurturing get to turn towards the more accessible sun. As Rumi said, be ground, be crumbled, so wildflowers will come up where you are. So in conclusion, I encourage you to open up a little wiggle room in your own realities this week and in the coming weeks. If a surprising and delightful impulse within you becomes apparent, act upon it. Maybe it's something as simple as hearing music from someone's car or apartment window. Dance to it right on the sidewalk. Maybe you're in a work meeting and you feel inspired to applaud an idea. Applaud the idea. Clap proudly. Maybe you want to read the whole article by Ijeoma Oluo that the second reading excerpt did. You can find it online for free. Maybe you want to lie on the cool wooden floor of your home and be still, listening to the bowels of the house until the cat comes and lies on your back. Maybe you want to open the bulk bins at Whole Foods and deeply sniff the spices. Maybe you want to slap a sticker on a lamppost at your bus stop that says, "Protect trans kids." Maybe you hear about a protest and feel inspired by it. Go see who you can find there. Maybe you want to comfort the person standing in line in front of you who looks like she's having a bad day. So say, "Hey, I hope good things happen to you today because you deserve it." Maybe you want to look in the mirror and say that to yourself. I encourage you to do one unexpectedly delightful thing this week. Don't look for reasons. Just make more senseless beauty until it makes its own sense. See if new possibilities emerge from your novel choices. Make anarchic delight. Thank you.